Hi, it's Reggie. Welcome back to Moonlight and Moments. Today is March 8th, a day recognized around the world as International Women's Day, a day meant to celebrate the strength, courage, and impact of women everywhere. But today, I want to honor something a little quieter. Not just the women whose names appear in history books, or the ones whose achievements fill headlines. Today is also about the women whose strength lives in ordinary moments. The women who wake up tired but keep going. The women who carry love, responsibility, dreams, and healing all at once. The women who are still learning how powerful they truly are. Sometimes the world only recognizes strength when it is loud and undeniable. But there is another kind of strength that often goes unseen. The strength of continuing, the strength of healing, the strength of choosing to rise again and again in small, quiet ways. Tonight's story is about that kind of strength. It's about the quiet resilience women carry every day, even when they don't realize it themselves. So take a breath and let's begin. The morning arrived quietly. The sun had barely begun stretching its light across the sky when Leela opened her eyes. The room was still wrapped in that gentle silence that exists before the world remembers to rush again. For a moment, she stayed there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft rhythm of her own breathing. Another day. Her alarm hadn't gone off yet, but her mind had already started its quiet inventory of everything waiting for her. Emails unanswered, errands undone, dreams that still felt slightly out of reach. She sat up slowly and reached for her phone. As the screen lit the room, a notification appeared from the news app. March 8th, International Women's Day. Lila read the headline twice before setting the phone down. International Women's Day. She thought about the women who were usually celebrated on days like this. The ones in articles and documentaries. The ones who built companies, changed laws, led movements, wrote history. Remarkable women. She stood up and walked to the kitchen, pouring coffee into her favorite chip mug. I guess that day isn't really about people like me, she murmured to herself with a quiet smile. Outside her apartment window, the city was waking up. Cars hummed past, a bus sighed at the corner stop, someone somewhere was already laughing. Lila watched it all, while sipping her coffee, unaware that the day was already beginning to tell her a different story. On her walk to work, she noticed a woman sitting on a park bench, tying the shoelaces of a little boy whose backpack looked almost as big as he was. The boy looked worried. "Do I have to go?" he asked softly. The woman smiled gently and brushed his hair back. "You're braver than you think," she said. The boy nodded, though he didn't look convinced, but he took her hand anyway. Lila continued walking. A few blocks later, she passed a small cafe where a woman sat alone at a table, surrounded by textbooks and loose sheets of notes. Her eyes were tired, but determined. Every few minutes, she would pause, rub her temples, then continue writing. Maybe she was studying for an exam. Maybe she was building a future that hadn't arrived yet. Inside the subway station, an elderly woman carefully descended the stairs one step at a time, gripping the railing with steady patience. Each step looked slow, deliberate, but full of quiet pride. No one applauded her. No one stopped to say anything, but she continued anyway. Leila found her seat on the train and watched the reflection of the city sliding past the window. Women everywhere. A woman in scrubs leaned against the pole, eyes closed, exhaustion resting heavily on her shoulders. A teenager comforted a crying friend. A woman in suit rehearsed something under her breath, likely preparing for a meeting where she would have to prove herself again. The train moved forward with its usual rhythm, and something about the moment made Lila pause, because suddenly she realized something she had never really considered before. None of these women looked extraordinary in the way history books describe. There were no speeches being given, no awards, no crowds cheering, and yet each of them was carrying something: responsibility, dreams, healing, hope, invisible battles. The kind of strength that doesn't show up in headlines. Later that afternoon, Leela stopped at a small grocery store on her way home. The cashier greeted her with a tired smile. "How's your day going?" the woman asked. "Pretty normal," Leela replied. The cashier nodded. Normal days can still be hard ones. Something about the way she said it lingered in the air. As Lila walked home that evening, the sky was painted with streaks of gold and lavender. The world felt softer somehow. She thought about the mother in the park, the student in the cafe, the elderly woman on the stairs, the nurse on the train, the friend offering comfort, and slowly a realization began unfolding inside her. Strength didn't always look loud. Sometimes, strength looked like waking up even when you're tired. Sometimes, it looked like caring for others while still learning how to care for yourself. Sometimes, it looked like starting over, or healing quietly, or continuing forward when no one noticed how hard it was. And suddenly, Leila laughed softly to herself. Maybe International Women's Day wasn't only about remarkable women after all. Maybe it was about women like the ones she had seen today. Women who kept going, women who kept trying, women who kept rising in ordinary ways. And maybe, just maybe, it was about her too. There is a quiet kind of strength that lives in the everyday lives of women. It rarely announces itself. It doesn't ask for applause or recognition. In fact, most of the time, it goes unnoticed entirely. But it is there. It exists in the woman who wakes up before the sun to care for her family, in the woman rebuilding herself after heartbreak, in the woman chasing dreams that once felt impossible, in the woman learning, slowly and patiently, how to believe in herself again. Strength doesn't always arrive wrapped in dramatic victories or historic achievements. More often, it lives in the quiet courage of continuing to love, continuing to try, continuing to grow, continuing to hope. The world often celebrates grand moments of power, but there is something equally powerful about the quiet resilience women carry every day. Because resilience is not just about surviving difficult moments. It is about choosing to keep becoming yourself even when the world has tried to convince you otherwise. It is about reclaiming space. It is about healing. It is about showing up again tomorrow. And when we begin to look closely, we realize something extraordinary. Women everywhere are carrying this quiet strength. It exists in mothers and daughters, in friends and strangers, in women who feel strong and in women who are still learning how to feel strong. It lives in women who are thriving and women who are still finding their way. Strength is not reserved for the select few. It belongs to every woman who continues to rise even when the rising feels small. And those small acts of rising more than we often realize. And those small acts of rising matter more than we often realize. Because every time a woman chooses to keep going, she changes the story. Not only for herself, but for the women who will follow after her. Many women move through the world carrying far more than anyone can see. Responsibilities, expectations, dreams they have quietly held for years. And sometimes the pressure to be everything for everyone else. The truth is that many women struggle with the feeling that they are never quite enough. Not successful enough, not confident enough, not strong enough. The world often sends subtle messages suggesting that worth must be proven through achievement, perfection, or constant productivity. But those expectations can make women overlook the quiet strength they already possess. Strength isn't only about climbing mountains. Sometimes it's about simply getting out of bed on a difficult day. Sometimes it's about setting a boundary. Sometimes it's about choosing to heal instead of hardening. Sometimes it's about daring to dream again after disappointment. And perhaps most importantly, sometimes it's about allowing yourself to exist without apologizing for who you are. Women everywhere are navigating complex lives filled with responsibilities, relationships, personal growth, and the desire to find meaning. And yet, even in the midst of those challenges, women continue to show up with compassion, creativity, and resilience. They support friends, they raise families, they pursue passions, they rebuild themselves after setbacks. They carry kindness into spaces that desperately need it. Those everyday acts of courage may not make headlines, but they shape the world in profound ways. And recognizing that strength, both in yourself and in other women, can be deeply empowering. Because when women begin to see their own resilience clearly, something beautiful happens. They stop shrinking. They stop doubting their worth. They begin to understand that their presence, their voice, and their journey matter. And that realization can change everything. If today is a moment to celebrate women, it can also be a moment to gently recognize the strength within yourself. Not the strength the world tells you to perform, but the quiet strength you have already carried. You might begin by taking a moment to reflect on your own journey. Think about the challenges you have faced, the moments you felt uncertain, the times you had to start again. Now consider this. You're still here. You continued, you grew, you adapted, you learned. That is strength. Another gentle practice is to acknowledge the women who have shaped your life. Perhaps it is a mother, a sister, a friend, a teacher, or even a stranger who once showed you kindness during a difficult moment. Their strength has likely touched your life in ways that may not always be visible. And you, in turn, are touching the lives of others in ways you may never fully see. You can also offer yourself the same compassion you often give so freely to others. Women are often taught to nurture everyone around them, while neglecting their own emotional needs. But caring for yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. Rest when you need to, celebrate your progress, allow yourself to grow without rushing the process. And remember that strength is not measured by how much you endure silently. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is honor your own well-being. Your journey matters. Your voice matters. And the quiet resilience you carry is something worth honoring. Not just today, but every day. Wherever you are right now, take a slow, gentle breath. Allow your shoulders to relax. Let the day soften around you. Now imagine standing in a quiet field beneath the evening sky. The air is calm. The horizon glows softly with the last light of the sun. Around you, women from every place and every generation are standing too. Some are young, some are older, some carry stories of great victories, others carry stories of quiet survival. But all of them share something in common. They have continued, they have endured, they have grown. And as you stand among them, you realize something important. You belong here. Your journey is part of this story. The strength you carry, even in its quietest form, is woven into the strength of women everywhere. Take another slow breath. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Feel the steady rhythm of your heart. And allow yourself to recognize something simple but powerful. You are rising. Maybe not loudly, maybe not perfectly, but you are rising in your own way. And that is more than enough. If today's story resonated with you, take a moment to recognize the quiet strength within your own life. The world may not always see the effort it takes to keep going, to keep growing, and to keep believing in yourself. But that strength is real, and it matters more than you may realize. And if you can, take a moment today to acknowledge the women who have shaped your life. Their courage, kindness, and resilience have likely touched your journey in ways that continue to ripple forward. Because every woman who chooses to keep rising, even in the smallest ways, becomes part of a much larger story. A story of strength, growth, and possibility. Thank you for spending this quiet moment with me tonight. Follow Moonlight and Moments wherever you listen, and share it with someone who might need a little light today. Until next time, and as always, love yourself better than yesterday.
She woke before the morning light, carried dreams through quiet nights. No crowd to cheer, no grand parade. Still she showed up